Thank you all for coming. My name is Millie Donovan. I am the Youth and Adult Programs Assistant here, and I wanted to help me welcome Sandy Alexander and Lyndsay Dean. Sandy comes to us from a design and marketing background. She is also the director of the Stonington Borough Merchants Association. She helps all of us here in the borough kind of with our plans and with um, just kind of coming together as a collaborative unit to bring you great programs in town. And Lyndsay is our vegan potter. She owns a space right outside the borough called Glaze Handmade. And they will be joining us today to talk you through some of the tricks and trade of marketing your business on a shoestring budget. So with that, I will leave it up to them. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks everyone for coming. This workshop is for small business owners trying to balance it all. And I think it's safe to say that Lyndsay and I both do that. I think she does it exceptionally well, and I try to help other small businesses with what I've learned.
So, and you do that exceptionally well.
So we're happy that you're here. We're going to take you through some tips and tricks in how to maximize your ROI, and that is your return on investment on your time, no matter how much you have, and your money, no matter how little you have. So with that, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay.
Are you guys ready?
Oh, yes.
All right.
Okay. Let's take a quick peek at what I consider to be a well-rounded marketing strategy. I'm not going to go into too much of this, but when I think of a marketing plan, I think of it like a bicycle wheel. There are lots of components to marketing your business, whether that's print collateral, partnerships or collaboration, content marketing, which could be video, blog posts, editorial, events, advertising, public relations, if you reach out to editors or newspapers looking for press, and of course your website. All of these components should revolve around your brand. That's your business. It's who you are. It's not just your products. It's what you want people to feel about what you're providing, whether that's services or an experience. Tonight, we are going to talk about 4 components of this plan. The first one is your website, and that working in tandem with Google and how Google finds your business. We're going to talk about email marketing, and we're going to talk a little bit about social media. We could spend hours alone just on Instagram, but we only have 45 minutes, so we're going to try to cover as much as we can.
And we will have time for Q&A, so get your questions ready.
And just so you know, there is on my website, I've posted sort of a synopsis of this presentation. So at the end, I'll give you a link, and you can go to my site and get this. Okay, so we'll start with your website. Your website is the only platform that you own. Social media channels are great, but they could disappear tomorrow. Your account could be hacked and you could lose your entire following, like one of my clients. That happened this week alone. But your website, you own all of the assets on that website. So you should maximize your website. It's the hub of your brand, and everything you should do should drive traffic to your website. It should meet your goals, whatever those goals may be, whether that's increasing sales or being a shop, offering services, soliciting appointments, anything that you deem that you need that asset for, that your website should accomplish for you. Start with that. It should convey your key messages, who you are and what you do on the home page. So as soon as someone visits your website, they know exactly who and what they're dealing with. And it's professional, which means that they're real and they're not a scammer. It should capture leads, which in layman's terms just means capturing potential customers, capture email addresses. If you are even a little bit tech savvy, it should capture analytics. Bare basic analytics, like where people are coming from to find your website. What's their geographic location? Is it a local audience? Analytics give you a really good idea of some data that can help improve the performance of your website. And finally, it should reflect your brand. It should feel like who you are, your vibe, your messaging, photography, everything on your website should reflect what your business stands for.
And give people a feeling when they land on that page of who they're interacting with, sort of what that service or item you're selling or items that you're selling feels like, a little bit of what you're about, so that you feel at home when you're visiting someone's website. That's what I look for.
Well, the reason I asked Lyndsay to partner with me on this presentation is because I think she does all of these things really well. And as an example, I have shown Lyndsay's landing page. Now, she has a full depth website. It has many pages and lots of content. But when you visit Glaze Handmade or theveganpotter.com, you immediately find that you're on a very simple landing page. And I want you to take us through what your strategy behind the simplicity and the content is meant to deliver for you.
Sure. Well, first and foremost, I wanted to feature the two things that I talk about most in my brand, which are vegan food and handmade pottery. So that's what the picture conveys right out of the gate. I did hire a photographer years ago, and I've had many other friends who are very good at photography provide me with really beautiful photos. So
You
I
do it pretty well too.
and I take my own as well, but I highly recommend like really getting your photos to convey your message. Sandy's also a wonderful photographer, although she won't say that about herself. And then I just want people to connect the fact that they might have visited glazehandmade.com or they might have put in the veganpotter.com. It's taking them to the same website because I am the vegan potter and I work out of my retail shop, brick and mortar, Glaze Handmade. So I want people to conjoin those in their minds as the same thing. And then I wanted people to be able to have an opportunity to just dive right in and enter, or to click the subscribe button. And a lot of us will visit a website. I know I've done it myself many times, where you type in the website and the second you hit their site, pop-up screens pop up. Give us your email, 15% off, 10% off. And I find it very annoying. And so I did not want that to happen on my website. Instead, I just give that extra button. If you want to subscribe, you give me your email, you get access to 2 free tutorials. One's a cooking demonstration, one's a pottery demonstration. Those are the two things I'm selling through my website. So
and that's called a lead magnet.
yes, fancy terms.
But it's an incentive, and some people do offer discount coupons. I find that most of the time people unsubscribe as soon as they utilize that first 15-20% off. So I try to recommend that if you are going to use a lead magnet, that you provide something that you could continue to provide if people keep coming back. This way they have a reason to keep coming back other than you just selling them products. Offering value is also key. And then once you dive into Lyndsay's site, there's a lot of content there. And I think it's a testament to the scope of what she offers her customers. It's not just a pot, it's recipes that work with her pottery, or it's vegan recipes, which speaks directly to who she is as a person, as well as what she conveys about her brand. And she's created a niche for herself. So if you're vegan, more than likely you're going to want to follow Lyndsay. And that's not just vegan. I mean, lots of people follow Lyndsay, me included. So is there anything you want to add about that?
I will just add, if you visit my website, please don't be intimidated if you're just starting out and setting up your own website. I have been building out this website since 2015. So I started out with just a home page and an about me page and a shop page. And that's what I had for probably the first couple of years. As people started to ask the same questions over and over again, what makes the pottery vegan? That's the question I get all the time. And I realized I really need a page on my website addressing this issue. And so I wrote myself a document, and now I can direct people directly to that page and they can read all the things that makes the pottery vegan. Of course, it's the potter that makes the pottery vegan. But a lot of the pages on my website got built out from those sorts of interactions happening. So
That's a good point. So if you don't have a website and it's something that you would like to make happen, there are basically two avenues. One is you can do it yourself, which could potentially be a time investment, depending on your skills, your design skills, your technical skills. And then there are various integrations that you might want to do, like you want to connect your social media channel to your website, you want to connect your domain name, or you could hire a designer like me who can help you with that. Depending on the complexity of a website, it's usually about 2,000 and up for a basic website. As far as what you can expect on a yearly basis, you'll need a domain, which is basically your address. So that's glazehandmade.com or dessalee.com. And the domain provider that I use the most is GoDaddy, and that's about $12 a year. As far as hosting, which is basically just a fancy term for an online platform that allows you to publish your website on the internet. There are three platforms that I use most in my business with my clients. The first one is Squarespace, which I think is pretty intuitive, especially if you are building your own website. And I think
It's very intuitive.
yeah, Lyndsay has a Squarespace site. WordPress, which is a little more involved and can be a bit buggy sometimes. And then Shopify, which I always try to steer my heavy duty e-commerce clients to. So if you're creating an online store with lots of products and you want a really robust e-commerce engine behind you, I think Shopify is definitely the way you want to go. Keep in mind that with all of these options, there's probably a transaction fee for each purchase through a payment gateway. So that could be about 3.5%. And then if you upgrade your plan in some of these platforms, they'll just do a flat monthly fee depending on potential number of sales and then also products. When you're figuring out what platform to go with, you want to think about what is the purpose of your website. Again, if it's an e-commerce site or if it's just a business card landing page that proves that you're alive and that you exist and that you're professional, just keep that in mind because, you know, prices range from $8 a month to, again, sky's the limit depending on all of the add-on modules that you want. Does anyone have any questions? Nope. Anything you want to add to that?
No.
Okay.
I think that covers our website very well.
Okay. Email. So someone who gives you their email address wants to hear from you because it is like pulling teeth getting people's email addresses. So if you are lucky enough to get one, then use it. I think email marketing is all about having an engaged list. If you have a list that you've gotten an email address from organically, that means connecting with someone at an event or networking or even an incentive or a value add. Building your list that way is much more valuable than building a huge list of people who have never heard from you or know who you are, because those people, as soon as you send them the first email, they will unsubscribe. In addition, Yahoo and Google have instituted some new requirements about emailing. And so you need to get your email address verified in order to send large scale emails. That's a completely different conversation. I'm not even going to go into that, but I think it goes back to the point of having an engaged list who signs up for your emails. So don't be afraid to do an opt-in, which means when you send someone an email, send an email back to them saying, please confirm that you want to hear from me. And if you get that email back, then you know for sure this is someone who is not going to unsubscribe. As far as content, you want to share relative content. It doesn't necessarily need to be a sales message every single time. It could be a new employee. It could be an exciting event that you're going to, or if you're, something that's related to your business.
And even if you have nothing going on at the time, but you feel like you haven't engaged with your audience in a while, Talk about what's going on in and around where your business is happening, someone else's event, another small business owner's event, so you can help propagate the community around your business. I find that helpful
Yeah.
sometimes when I have no idea I have nothing new to tell my audience.
Right. Well, I also think collaboration is key, and we'll get to that. But I think keeping it simple. A lot of people, when I get emails, sometimes I get these emails that I'm scrolling through, scrolling, and I think, okay, I don't have time right now to go through this whole email, so I'm just gonna come back to it. And then when I get back to it, all of the information is irrelevant because it's been like a week since. So it goes in the trash bin anyway. So I think keep your messaging simple, even if it's one message, it, and one event, or whatever. It just don't go crazy and think you have to tell everybody a long story. It's a very simple message.
It takes the pressure off you when you're building the email too, to realize I don't have to write a book. I can just tell them one thing and give them a button to click.
Exactly.
And it really takes the pressure off.
And I think consistency too. When you're asking for that email, don't be afraid to say, you may only hear from me once a month. It's a monthly email. This way they know that they won't be bombarded with, 7 sales messages a day like some emailers do. And then also, of course, it should look and feel like your business, right? Use your logo, use your color palette, use the kind of language that you speak to your customers with. It should feel like your brand. Here are 2 very simple emails that I sent out for the Stonington Borough Merchants Association. I do a monthly editorial piece on their website. And so we have about 2,000 subscribers to our email list, which isn't huge, but I generally get a 24 to a 30% click through rate on my emails when I send them. And that is unheard of, right? It's 2 to 5% is industry standard. I think that I'm consistent. I do once a month. And sometimes if we have an event, I'll sprinkle in a few more. But the thing to note about these emails is there's usually one primary message. It's a very simple design, and the call to action, which is what I want someone to do when they open this email, which is read more, um, is very clear to see. So they know what is expected of them. So these were 2 really successful emails that I sent. If you want to get in the email marketing game, I think you should. There are 2 platforms that I typically use for email marketing. One is MailChimp, and that is free up to a certain number of subscribers. And I think it's at 1,000 right now. In the last year, they've started instituting limitations like links that expire within a certain time frame. They're trying to make money. Obviously, they're not a charity. So if you upgrade to an account that's paid, you'll have more options available to you. But if you're just starting out and you want to build your email list and you have less than 1,000 subscribers anyway, I say try MailChimp. Constant Contact is really great. It's robust. It's got a lot behind it, but at a minimum of $12 a month, it might be more than most people need if they're just doing, 1 email a month or something like that. You want to consider how many subscribers you have, how many emails per month that you send, and how many users will be accessing your account to create emails. Most of my small business clients, it's just one person. It's one person trying to balance everything. So why don't you tell us what you use and what works for you best?
I've used both of these platforms. I started out years ago with Constant Contact when email marketing was new. And I found it to be a great platform. I have no loyalty. I go with what is affordable. Just like I shop for insurance. No loyalty, whatever's cheapest, that's where I go. I do the same thing with my email platform. So Constant Contact started out going up on their prices, and I said, bye-bye, MailChimp's free because my list was below their threshold of charging. I used MailChimp for years, and then their prices started to use, and I'm not in love with it. I will start out saying that, but I use Squarespace. Squarespace is the website host that hosts my website, and I chose that platform only because I thought I really like the idea of streamlining everything in one place. However, their email marketing portion of their site is really not set up to do it professionally like these two platforms are. So it's certainly not as intuitive. It's not easy to drag and drop, but it's functioning for me, and it's forcing me to simplify the emails I send out simply because it's not as easy to make them complex anymore. So,
Yeah, which is probably
um,
better anyway.
and my email list is, I'm going to be paying no matter where I go now, because I have over 5,000 people that have subscribed between Glaze and the Vegan Potter, because I have two separate lists of people.
Can I ask a question about that?
Sure.
So clearly, you want this to interact with your website.
Yes.
So you want something that's on your website that clicks and stores person's name, first name, and their email. So I would imagine plugins to
Well,
whatever website you're using.
Well, they all do that, but even with Squarespace, for example, you can set up a storage component that will go to a Google spreadsheet. So you don't necessarily need to integrate it with an email platform to collect the email address, but any automation that you do, like connecting MailChimp to that email collector, if you will only save you time. And I think time is money, right? Anything that you can do to simplify your process is going to be worth it in the long run.
Yeah, and exactly what you're asking, Sandy helped me with several months ago when I was like, I want to create this lead magnet. I'm going to give away 2 free tutorials with the subscribe button. And she helped me walk through. I had no idea that I could set up a free Google spreadsheet that the emails would filter into. And it's been a game changer because I don't have to type them. I can just copy them, save them as a CSV file, which is the file extension they have to
Right.
to load properly. And that worked out beautifully.
But I think the whole point of an email marketing platform is to collect the email address. So that's what they're going to do best, right? It's basically just a connection and integration that you have to do with your website.
And those emails get stored.
The emails that you create and send will
I'm sorry, the email address. Where do those get stored?
on the
Standalone emails?
it would you could set it up so that it saves to a Google spreadsheet and or to the email platform.
But they're still yours, and you have access to download that list and do whatever you want with it at any time. Yep.
Yep.
And move it. Exactly. Yep.
And it is pretty easy to download and upload
Yeah.
lists, so
Yep.
I wouldn't worry about that. My 4 best practices for email marketing. Number 1 is a strong subject line. When I look at my inbox, which is I manage 6 email inboxes, it's a little overwhelming. And the first thing I look at is the subject line. And if that subject line does not get me in, that email is going right in the trash. And I'm sure I'm not alone. Even people who only manage 1 email inbox. I think that your emails should have clear and concise messaging. Like I said before, try to focus on one thing. What do you want to talk about at this very moment? A clear call to action, which is what you want them to do when they open that email. And then again, just a clean design. Google. Anyone who is looking for something, whether it's something in town or something across the world, they are probably using Google. And Google offers free tools to help you rank higher in search. Google has 88% of the search engine market, so they are number 1. And some of the free tools that I use with Google are creating a Google business profile and their analytics. They have a really robust engine of analytics that you can tap into. And then, of course, again, they're not in the business of giving things away. So paid advertising, but I find that they're pay per click advertising, which is you basically set a budget if you want to create an ad for as little as $15, for example, and you only pay for the people that click through your ad to get to your website. So it's a really affordable way to advertise, and Google that's their primary business is pay per click advertising. one thing that you want to consider when you're creating your Google business profile is look at what your competitors are doing or other people who do what you do. Look how they describe themselves. What services do they offer? Try to position yourself a little bit differently, or maybe in a way that sounds a lot better. And also think about the whole thing about being found on Google is using the right words. If you use some esoteric phrase to describe your business, that's great. But someone who's just looking for a jewelry designer in Stonington Borough is never going to find you if you use your tagline, which may mean nothing to someone. So think about what words people use when they search to find your business. That's what you want to play with. And that can change too. It can be seasonal, cyclical, it could be trendy, whatever that may be. I have to admit, I am a cobbler who has no shoes. I do this all day long, every day for my clients, and I realize that my whole online presence is really sad. And it's because I've just been busy working. So at the beginning of this year, I decided I was going to up my game a little bit. And I went in, and I've had a Google business profile for a really long time, but I haven't really done much with it. So when I searched graphic designer in Stonington, Connecticut, I wasn't even on the first 3 pages of search results. So I thought, oh boy, this isn't really good. So I went in and I did a number of things to help improve my organic search results. And that means I didn't pay Google $1. All I did were 4 simple things. Number 1, I put my primary services / keywords that I want to be found for. And in this case, it's branding, graphic design, web design, marketing, strategy. Maybe that's more than 4, right? But I put those in the name of my business. So when someone searches one of those terms in Stonington, Connecticut, and that's another really important thing, is to include your address in your profile, people will find me. You also want to make sure that you consider that I work from home. So I didn't necessarily want my home address on Google, but Google utilizes your location to find you. So you have to provide some kind of contact information where they can geographically place you. So I just put the name of my road, and it's really transformed my search results. The other thing I did was I put a category on there. So if you're an antique store or a liquor store, whatever that may be, put a primary category, and Google gives you some options, because someone might be searching for, graphic designer in Stonington. And if you're not listed as a graphic designer, it's not going to find you. And also, I think Google reviews are very important. It's very easy to copy and paste a Google review onto your website, but it's impossible to do the opposite. And Google also wants to validate that your business is real and respected and professional if they're going to drive results to you. So the more Google reviews that you can solicit from your customers, from your clients, the higher you will go up in search results. So this took me all of, I want to say, an hour at most to do. And within 24 hours, I was at number 2. It was amazing. I mean, I almost could not believe it, and that changes from day to day. I just was amazed at how quickly that changed everything. Do you have anything to add to that?
I had a Google business listing for a while, and putting together this presentation with Sandy and realizing, like, I haven't looked at that in a really long time. Do I show up? I don't know. So I did the same thing. I went in and searched myself. I was close to the top, but I thought, let me go in and judge a little bit. And I spent some time the other night kind of just, polishing things. So,
well, it looks good. I checked it today.
oh, thanks.
Good question, because I'm not tech savvy at all. Like, how would I do that? Like, I would just go.
Google.com/business.
Okay.
And it is foolproof. I mean, you just go in, you create your profile. You can, if you have a Google email account, you definitely need an email address, a Google email address to open the account.
Even if you're not using that address, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Just set one up, set up your Gmail account, and you never have to visit it.
Right. And I mean, Google has so many other tools. We haven't even scratched the surface, but there are, spreadsheets and documents, and it's endless the amount of tools that are available to you if you just spend a little bit of time.
And it lets you upload your own photos as well. And it also lets customers upload photos,
Yeah.
which I did not realize until I looked at my own the other night. I was like,
Like,
what is
wait a
that photo
minute.
from? I didn't take that. Well, as a customer doing a review and uploading a photo. So you can request customers to do reviews, have a little thing on your front counter or on your website. Like, I'd love your Google review, and you can link right to where they can leave your review.
Yep. I think it's really valuable.
Reply to their reviews too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Social media. This is a huge topic, and we decided to just strictly give you a very brief overview and maybe dial into Instagram a little bit. But what is common among all the social media platforms is that engagement is everything. Whenever my clients are talking to me about social media, I say it's a great resource. It's free. If you have all the time in the world, I say use it. But you don't own your followers. And like I said, your account can disappear like that
Or be hacked.
or be hacked. And then this years of creating a following can just go away. That's why I'm such an advocate for building an email list that will drive people to your site. But what you want to think about when you're creating that social media presence is, who are you trying to reach? Who are your customers? What are you trying to accomplish? Have a strategy behind your social media. And this person has the most amazing story. So I'm going to let her talk in a second. But the other really important thing to consider is, what is sustainable for you. If you are not a person who can write copy, or take photographs, Instagram may not be right for you. Or if you have only 1 hour a week, you're not going to create a social media campaign where you have to post every day, or you have to create these time intensive reels. So think about where your audience is, what you're trying to achieve, and then figure out that platform that you feel comfortable with. There are lots of social channels out there, but most of my clients talk about Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube if you're posting videos, and then X or Threads. X was formerly Twitter. Profiles are free, but of course there's lots of paid advertising opportunities. It's easy. If you just post an image, you can boost that image if you want. You can boost a reel. It's all of the tools are within those platforms. It just takes a little fooling around and playing with it. Again, think about what your goals are, your level of comfort, and who's creating content for you and where are you getting that content. Instagram has more than 2 billion users every month. That's an amazing amount of people. And ages 18 to 34 is about the sweet spot of users on Instagram. 48.2% are female, about 52% are male. I actually thought it was higher female, but these are the numbers that I got. I think Lyndsay does an incredible job with her Instagram. She's got a whopping 34,000 followers on her feed, and she utilizes 5 different components of Instagram to achieve those results and keep her followers coming back. The profile is where you tell people who you are. So that is a very short phrase. It's your address if you're a brick and mortar retailer. I can't say that enough. I can't tell you how many shops don't have their address in their bio. It's a link tree that would offer multiple links if you have a website or you have somewhere else you want to drive people, or it's just a single website link and it's maybe your hours, but you don't have a lot of real estate there. So you want to be concise. This is what we call the grid. And that is a mix of imagery, video, whatever you post there. And then usually I try to tell people if they're going to post to their grid, do that first. Then you can easily just share that up to stories, which is here. And then stories, if it's great content and you get a lot of engagement, people are responding to it, they're liking it, they're sharing it, then you can save that to your highlights and that lives on your profile. I want to hear about your experience with getting to 34,000 followers.
Um, yeah. So my experience is I've been using Instagram since probably 2015 or 2014, maybe the year after it got started. I was not posting business stuff. I was posting mostly yoga poses because that's what I was doing at the time. And I wasn't looking for followers, but as I sort of started to go into the vegan potter and more of a business aspect, I started to use this platform as an avenue to showcase my work and what I'm about. Last year, and since 2015, let's make this clear. So from 2015 to 2023, I had only acquired 7,000 followers
Oh my.
in all those years. Okay. So if you
That's
have
still
like
a
100,
significant amount of followers.
if you have
for
79 followers and it's been 6 months, like that's normal. It's totally normal. And it was really aggravating me because we all have egos, right? I saw these other potters with like 100,000 followers and I was like, come on, my stuff's better than theirs. Like, why can't I get that many followers? Which is really silly. But I thought, what is my purpose for even wanting followers? What is my purpose? What am I going to do with those followers? Because they're not mine. They belong to social media land. Unless I capture their email addresses, unless they click on my website, and very few of those 34,000 people are doing anything interacting with my website. I don't have those email addresses. Like I said earlier, my email land is maybe 5,000, and I've been in business 21 years to get 5,000 email addresses from people. So I set myself a goal last February when I was at that 7,000 follower mark, and I said, okay, I think I would like to offer virtual classes. I want to start teaching online. I had taught in person for 17 years. I let that go in 2018, opened my brick and mortar here in Stonington, and I missed teaching. So I wanted to give my students the opportunity to take classes with me online. And I also, after COVID, as we all know, teaching online became like a really normal thing, and people weren't afraid of taking a Zoom class. So I thought, well, then I want to start offering little educational snippets on my Instagram page because I had done a lot of reading about marketing, a lot of reading about the algorithm, a lot of reading about how to gain followers and what they're looking for to follow. And the most followed thing is education, information, things that people want to learn. So if you're teaching them something, if they're learning some kind of snippet from you on a daily or a weekly or even a monthly basis, they're more likely to follow you, and your content is more likely to show up for other people to see. So I decided for a month that I was going to post a reel a day.
A reel is a video, by the way.
A reel is just a video. It can be up to 90 seconds long, no longer. And I decided that I was going to display my knowledge of teaching because that was what my goal was to get people to follow me who would then give me their email, who then might take a virtual class with me. This was my strategy. So I started posting reels that were completely informational, like how to make a bowl, how to make a mug, how to do whatever I was doing, how to wedge clay, prep clay. And I started to get a lot of views on those reels. When you post a reel, you have analytics in your feed to be able to go back and see who's looking, where are they watching from, how many times did they watch it, how long did they watch it for. Average viewing of a 90-second reel might be 15 seconds. So if you're not getting them, as we all know, because we do this all day, and if it's not catching you in the first 3 seconds, we're usually scrolling by. So I tried to make things interactive. I tried to put text overlay. It was taking me on average an hour a day to make these reels because I was recording the video and then I was editing the video and then I was putting the reel together and putting the text overlay.
You're starting to scare people.
And then
I
post
think.
it, right? But I'm just letting you know, like, this following did not come from nowhere. It was a ton of work to get these actual followers. And so over the course of the next year, I went from 7,000 followers to today I have 34,000. It means nothing, honest to God, unless you're capturing them somehow and driving them back to your website, which is the whole purpose of this presentation. Like, that is the hub. It is the most important thing that you could possibly have. And then encouraging them to give you their email addresses, which is like pulling teeth sometimes.
Right.
So yeah, so it's great. I've got all these followers. That being said, I did increase my following. I do have more engagement. Now I have a lot of information for people to go back and scroll through and look at. And I do have a few reels that have gone viral, which means over 100,000 views. Super exciting, but means nothing again. um, Except it feeds your ego a little bit. But
Well, you also are more appealing to bigger brands who may want to sponsor a post or pay you to do a post. That's another sales channel. That's
Yeah.
when you hear the word influencer, that's what that means. Someone who has lots of followers like that, they're often paid by bigger companies who are looking for influencers to peddle their products.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
there you go, you're on your way.
And hook you in with their brand. And I would love to be an influencer for any companies that are looking for one. But all that being said, it was successful in terms of I launched 2 virtual classes at the end of last year. The first one had 20 people sign up and the second one had 10. I didn't do as much marketing for the second one. But the whole goal was I want to drive traffic. I need to capture these emails. I want people to engage with me. I have a service and a meaningful end to the means. And so in that way, it was helpful. And so all those hours that I'll never get paid for made it worth it. And now the following, once you start to grow your following, it starts to grow more organically. So for all those years that I was like, I got 1 new follower this week, woo! And I struggled to get them to click follow, it starts to happen more organically the more your information is being watched and viewed.
It's also a beast that you have to continually feed with
Yes.
that many followers. So you have to continually provide content and often free educational content. So you have to really determine, is it worth it for me?
Yeah.
Which is why I really believe that that wheel that I showed you in the beginning, it's just one element of sort of a bigger picture of the things that you should be doing.
And all that being said, I have 2 pages on Instagram. So this is my more personal page, more interactive, more virtual classes, selling online. My brick and mortar has a separate page that doesn't have nearly as many followers. But all I do on that page is I talk more about, this is my shop in Stonington. If you're local, you can see pictures of my work. So it really depends on what you're trying to achieve with your brand.
Lyndsay's also very good about collaborating and sharing posts with other artists, other businesses, which is a really great way to get you seen by other people who may not be in your niche. Okay, so 5 tips to increase engagement and gain followers on Instagram. Use all the formats. If you can, even just creating a simple video with your phone and then overlaying type, that's a reel. So reels, highlights, stories, the grid. Instagram's algorithm is hungry for content, so that's the best way to be successful. Post consistently. You know, there's really no magic number as to how many times a day or a week you should post, but let's just say that Instagram thinks it's often. And I think, as Lyndsay has demonstrated, providing value is a great way to gain followers. If you're not really offering people anything other than, you know, a pretty picture, they're less likely to want to come back. Engage with other users. Don't post and ghost. That's my new term. When you post something, go to someone else's feed and comment or like their story or their post. You know, try to spark a conversation. When I say social media is about being social and engaging with other users, that's what that means. It means, you know, showing that you're a real person and that you're in it to socialize. And then again, whatever you post should reflect your brand. Everybody, I think, here knows Facebook, so I'm not going to spend too much time on it. And I But one myth I'd like to dispel is the younger generation always says Facebook is dead. No one's on Facebook. There are more than 3 billion monthly users on Facebook, and it's growing. The average user spends about 31 minutes per day. It's about 56% male, 44% female, and almost 30% of Facebook users are between the ages of 25 and 34. So I wouldn't say that they're octogenarians,
No.
right? It's you can still reach a younger demographic on Facebook, and I think Facebook is really great if you're a local business. And again, sharing other people's content, being in the conversation, sharing things that people are talking about or in the moment. Facebook is great for that.
Posting events and inviting people to the event. If
Yeah.
you're doing an in-person event,
Yeah.
it's great for that.
I think Facebook is still a very viable tool for promoting your business, and it's free. Just a few other social platforms you might want to consider. YouTube, which is a free video sharing platform that's got 2.7 billion monthly users. And most people, even myself included, I go to YouTube if I want to teach myself how to do something. TikTok, I don't necessarily use TikTok myself or promote it for my clients, but I know a lot of people have a lot of success with TikTok. It's just a short form video platform. 80% of users are aged 16 to 34. X, which is formerly Twitter, or Threads, which comes from the Facebook, Instagram, Meta universe. That's basically a social networking site utilizing a set number of characters. And then LinkedIn, of course, is a great resource if you're networking for business opportunities and knowledge. Okay. I have one final question for you. And that is, would you take a road trip without directions? Would you get in your car and drive to California without a road map? I think that if you're trying to create a successful marketing plan, time is money, and you should create a plan so that you can get to where you're going faster. Think about who you're trying to reach, what you're trying to accomplish, what your timeline is. What does success mean to you? I think success means something different to everyone. Some people, it's about increasing sales, increasing followers, becoming more efficient with what you're doing with your time. That's very different for everybody. And then finally, and I've said this is the third time, what is sustainable for you? You've got to create a plan that you can keep to at least somewhat consistently. And that's what we have. Sure.
Sure. Okay. Do you guys have questions? Yeah.
How valuable is it to join for your business?
So the question was, how valuable is it to join a chamber of commerce for your business? I have been in business 21 years, and I can speak to the fact that when I first opened my first brick and mortar, I joined the chamber in the Norwich area. It's as valuable as the time you put into using it, is what I will say to that.
That's a great answer.
I, for one, in the early stages of joining any chamber, and I've been a chamber member of 3 different chamber of commerce, I think, over the course of the years, and they have so many resources. Like, obviously you're paying to be a chamber member, but then they offer you can be a part of our email, you can send us things every week, tell us what's going on, events, but you have to partake in what they're asking for, or your membership, you're not making your membership work for you. So again, what's sustainable? What do you want to invest your time in? And they do host, a lot of chambers host member breakfasts and after hours, and their networking events, and they're wonderful. But you have to want to do that and put the time and energy in. So that's my short answer, is like, they're as valuable as the time you put into using your membership.
I think the only thing I'd like to add to that is we have 2 really strong chambers. So
Yeah.
we're pretty fortunate. The Ocean Community Chamber and the Mystic Chamber are both really good, active chambers. Sarah, did you have a question? Hi. Okay, so the question was, how much time do you spend updating your website? You mean working on marketing in general? Okay. I spend all day every day, but not just on mine. I think that as often as you can allot, I think if you could spend 1 day a week, which is unheard of, that would be in a perfect world fantastic. That's you in 1 day you could do email marketing, you could update your website, you could do a monthly newsletter and get that out. You could record all of your video content. I mean, if you're going to go in that deep, you could get a lot done in 1 day. You just have to have a plan. And like I said, planning is everything. I have a lot of clients that I do those things for, and I schedule everything as far as my time. So I know that if I'm going to work on client A, these are the things I need to accomplish this week. And on a monthly basis, I look at these are the things I need to accomplish on a monthly basis so that I can plan ahead. And if I have an idea for a monthly newsletter, I'm going to store that away so that when I'm ready to sit down and compile that newsletter, I have all of my assets together. I could do a whole workshop just on organizing your assets. I can't even tell you how many clients I work with who need websites who come to me and they can't even find their logo. They've had a logo for years and years, but they don't know where it is, or they don't have a former web designer did a website for them and they have no login information. They can't access their website. I mean, I think just getting organized and having a plan and then saying, if I have 1 hour a week, this is what I'm going to do because this is what my goal is. My goal is to gain customers or increase sales. So, what's one thing that I'm going to do this week to increase sales? And just make that your mantra and test it. I mean, things don't happen overnight. So, sometimes it's going to take some practice to figure out what's really working for you. Social media may not work for you, or it may work really well if that's what your goal is and that you're achieving your goal with that format. Okay. Millie from the library added that Meta has scheduling features within the platform. So if you have a Facebook and an Instagram account, you can schedule your posts simultaneously through your dashboard, and you can actually create variations. So, for example, if you don't want to include hashtags in your Facebook post, but you do want to include those in your Instagram post, you can create those variations at the same time and then schedule it for a specific time in the future to drop. So that's really helpful, especially if you've only got 1 day or an hour a week to focus on your marketing, then you can create those things and schedule them ahead of time. There are also lots of other scheduling platforms that you can pay for, but I think if you're using Instagram and Facebook, just use the free resources.
And that's fairly new. They didn't always offer the opportunity to schedule. I paid for a scheduling sort of app for years so that I could try to get really organized, and I was for a while. I'm not so much anymore. But the other great thing about Instagram, at least I can't remember about Facebook because I'm not on it as often, is you can save drafts. So you can start working on a reel and go, I gotta go. This is taking longer than I thought, and you can save that as a draft and you can come back to it later. So that's a nice option for biting off smaller chunks of time as well. So the question was, is Instagram the best way to edit your reels and videos? Yeah, I've heard rumors that Instagram wants you to stay on the app as long as possible and do all the editing. It is not a great editing format. So I have a paid subscription to an outside editing app called Vixer. It's, I think, $40 for the year, and it's worth its weight in gold. It's very intuitive. You can do your text overlays, you can do audio overlays. It's not complicated. For years, I was using iMovie, which is also great, but I was having to jump on my laptop to do that because it didn't have an app, and you have to have like some video editing experience to understand the way that app works. Vixer is really, really great, and that's how I've created all my reels.
I experienced the same thing. The only downside with using a third-party app is if you want to include trending music, those third-party apps do not license music for usage. It's all original music, or at least licensed free. And so sometimes you can create your reel in the third party app and then overlay trending audio, which is in Instagram. Like you can find audio and plug that in. And you're still creating a reel in Instagram, technically. That's how I sort of skirt those licensing issues.
And that's exactly what I do. If I want the fancy music, then I go into Instagram and I put the fancy music on there. And then you can control your audio too. You can control you want your vocal to be at the 100% mark, and you want that music to be in the background.
So you save the files to Instagram?
Once you're in the Instagram app and you're building your reel, you can take your video from your phone, from your photos, and put it into the reel, and then you can choose music right from Instagram. So the music is all right there for you. However,
Or you could add music from because Ashley's a musician.
yeah,
so-
you could add your own music, and then you wouldn't need licensing. I will say about music on Instagram, and having posted the number of reels that I've posted, that even though the music is available to you, it doesn't always mean that Instagram or Warner or whoever owns the rights to that music is going to allow you to actually use it for the long term. Because I've had some videos that have been up for like a year, and then all of a sudden I'll get a notice saying Instagram's removed you because remove this reel because of licensing and the music copyright, or
Yep.
it's not being, your video is not being shown in Canada, or your video is not being shown in Moscow, or like whatever. So there's some weird, even though they let you put the music on there, they don't have the right to do that obviously all the time. So.
Again, you don't own that. So
Yeah.
there are some things to work around there. Annette? Okay, so the question from Annette is there any specific equipment we would recommend when creating reels? I'm going to let you speak to that because I'm sort of boots on the ground taking video outside generally. That's where I get the best exposure and the best light. I never do anything inside, and if I do, I'm up against the window like this. So Lyndsay, what do you think? Because I know you do a lot of.
Yeah, I did not spend any money on expensive hardware. I use my iPhone. It's not the latest and greatest iPhone. It's like a couple years old. I do, if I'm taking a still shot, I usually will take, because my pottery is just like, it's hard. It's not like a soft thing, like textile. I'll take it outside in the daylight. I make sure the sun is nowhere near, and I'm just in that sort of indirect light. Indirect light is going to be the key for video or for, still shots to get the best, most beautiful lighting. I don't have anything fancy. The only thing I purchased for my virtual classes so that I could look more professional and record and sell the replays of those classes is something called Lume, Lume. And it's kind of like a ring light, and it holds your phone, and it's got a remote control and all the fanciness, and you can change the, color and the tone of the color and all of that. But the only time I use that is when I'm filming myself for a virtual class. Otherwise, I'm just using like a cheap phone holder. If you're watching one of my regular wheels, I don't have expensive.
Yeah, I would say that the iPhone takes incredible photos. I actually have a big fancy camera, and I've resorted to using my iPhone more because it's just better, and it's more convenient and easy to carry around. I would say to all my restaurant friends out there that lighting is everything when it comes to food. So please, if you can, natural lighting is always better for food. I've seen so many food shots that just make the food look unappetizing because the lighting isn't good. So if you're taking images of food, just consider that.
And a lot of the images of food you see, if you are trying to get good food shots, it's not real food that they're photographing.
Yeah.
It's not made to eat. It's
Yeah.
not edible. They're using different things to make the sauce look thicker and things look glossy and all those things. So don't feel like, I'm making beautiful food and I just can't get a good picture of it.
Food stylist is an occupation.
Yes, it is.
People get paid to do that.
Yeah.
Ashley? QR codes. I think if you're trying to, a lot of my clients love QR codes. I don't necessarily love them because I don't think they look so good, but they can be convenient. I know a lot of restaurants have started using QR codes on their menus.
Like a means to direct to
Yeah, I think depending on the instance, I wouldn't rely on them solely because I think there isn't a lot of emotion or connection there. Like I think an image is much more compelling than a QR code. But if you just want to drive someone to your website, which is primarily what I would use a QR code for, I would use it. Yeah.
Or a particular page on your website. So here's a piece of my marketing, which is very picture heavy, and I have a QR code on the back, which directs people directly to my recipe page because I'm trying to add value to them taking this card, and I want them to keep the card rather than throw the card away. So that's how I'm trying to make that happen.
Right, I agree. I mean, I think that there's lots of ways to market a greeting card business, but I think if and the quality of your art is so high that I would say your paper is an asset to what you're selling and garners a higher price point than maybe just a typical cheapy greeting card. So texture, touch, feel, that sensation is key in expressing your brand's value and the value of your card. So I would think if you're sending it and you want to be in higher end stores, they absolutely need samples. Yes, I do recommend trying to touch base or make a connection before you start sending product samples because it could literally just be mailed into the abyss. So having a contact ahead of time and let them know that something's coming or, I saw you on Instagram and I can tell that you really value quality. Make some sort of connection and show that your product fits well with their business. I know a lot of people have product-based businesses and they blindly send samples and it may not even be a good fit. And so it's sort of, it may not be a lot of money, but that adds up, product, shipping, time, your effort, all of those things add up. So yeah, I would make a connection first.
And I always research.
Right, because your connections and where your products are sold is also a reflection on your business and your brand. Can you say
Absolutely. And
that?
I wouldn't be afraid to charge for samples. I know myself that even a nominal fee to cover shipping, either that or for your business, I would say after you've made a contact, maybe you're sending them a thank you on one of your cards. So they are touching and feeling that sample and you're not having to send out, a number of them. But if you have different paper stocks and different types of cards that you send, then maybe you're just making a sample pack so they can touch and feel those individual things. I know I've ordered samples and paid for samples from, paint companies or plaster companies. We're building a house and not afraid to pay for them because I want to see what that product feels like. So it's valuable. Perfect.
Sally has cards for sale up front, and she also has a show going on in the gallery in the library. So make sure you see that.
Any other questions?
ROA, what does that stand for again?
ROI.
ROI.
ROI is return on investment, and that is time and or money. And I think they're both as valuable as one as the other. Okay, I think that's it.
Thank you.
All right.
We really
Thank you
appreciate
for
you guys
coming.
coming. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And thank you to all the YouTube people who watched.
Yes. Oh, and if you want sort of a cheat sheet from this presentation, go to dessalee.com. That's DESSALEA.com. And if you give me your email address, I will send you a cheat sheet. And I promise I won't spam you or email you much.